Content is the new career currency. So if you aren't creating content as a part of your professional brand, then you risk being left behind in this evolving marketplace. Grab your cup of tea and let's dive into it. The modern marketplace is about much more than simply turning up to your 9 to 5 and ticking all of the boxes. It's about how you actually influence an industry. There was research from the frontiers of psychology that showed that the professionals who intentionally build their personal brand through visibility, through storytelling, through self-expression, reported a higher employability and career satisfaction compared to those that didn't. So if you aren't creating content as a key priority for your personal brand, for your professional brand and your career moving forward, today I want to talk about the reasons why this needs to be on your priority list and fast. The first reason is credibility over credentials. Your credentials may have got you into a room to begin with, but careers are no longer built on credentials. They're built on credibility. And of course, that relates to the credibility that you have gained as a part of your professional experience if you've already had some experience in your career. But a lot of that experience can often become redundant over time. Those projects can become dated. Those new ideas, those innovations that you worked on can start to become less relevant in the marketplace. When you create content, you are consistently showing your credibility in the area of expertise that you have. And this leads nicely into reason number 2, which is to show your work. This idea really resonated with me when I read Austin Keelong's book with the same title, Show Your Work. It was a really great read and it's written really engagingly as well and super simple to understand too. The idea of showing your work really highlights that professionals are no longer simply experts in their field. They're now storytellers, educators, curators of content. So it's now no longer enough to simply do the work, it's about showing your work too. Which leads to reason number 3, which is building your portfolio of proof. By creating content, you are showing the depth and the breadth of your expertise. You are showing how far this can go outside of just the projects that you maybe deliver as a part of your role. Because often what you do in your 9 to 5 or even as a part of your business may not actually reflect the true extent of the knowledge and the expertise that you bring to the marketplace. And by building your portfolio of proof, you are showing where that expertise comes from. You are providing either your workplace, your industry, or your clients, if you do have your own business, more of the depth of that expertise. Even if you have a business, for example, that offers some really simple services, you might show through your content just the complete depth of the knowledge of where that is coming from in terms of when you deliver for a client. So what they might see as the final product or the final service is actually grounded in so much knowledge that you have to offer the marketplace as well. Reason number 4 is contributing to the conversation. I remember back in the day when I would go to interviews, one of the questions that they used to ask, and I'm not sure if they still do ask this question a lot, was how you kept up with the latest industry trends. They wanted to know how across the marketplace in general you were and what you did to do this. Now, this was the time before content creation really exploded. So you had to demonstrate the different ways that you kept up with the latest industry news and were actively involved in the industry in some way. But now your content is a way to do that. It's not enough to simply just be across the latest trends in the industry, to be across the hot topics in the industry. The people that actually stand out in the marketplace now, and it is going to become more and more of an expectation, are the people who are actually contributing to the conversation. So they're not just learning about the different trends and the emerging ideas, they're actually at the forefront of them. They're either contributing those ideas in the first place as thought leaders, or they are amongst the first people who are having the conversations that are moving the industry forward. And thinking about the broader industry leads nicely into reason number 5, which is that your content is your career insurance. Traditionally, it may have been enough to simply turn up to your 9 to 5 and do a really great job for the employer that you had at the time and your next employer and so on. But now the focus in an increasingly competitive job market is about your contribution to the industry overall. But more than that, it is also something that is going to help protect your career against potential risks going forward. If, for example, you are purely focused on your current job and your current title, and you aren't thinking about the broader industry, then if something happens to you in that potential role, then how much of your personal brand have you built outside of your current employer? When you create content, you're leaving an impression on the broader industry in a way that is not attached to your current title or your current employer. You're showing how you add value to an industry. And even if you plan to stay with your current employer for the long term, you are increasing the leverage that you have as a part of that relationship because you have value in the industry overall, as opposed to the value that they gave to you as a part of your title. Reason number 6 is that content is the new resume. Austin Keelong in Show Your Work does touch on this as well when he says, imagine if your next boss didn't need to read your resume because he already reads your blog. Imagine being a student and getting your first gig based on a school project you posted online. Imagine losing your job but having a social network of people familiar with your work and ready to help you find a new one. Reason number 7 is that your content will help to protect your value against AI. I was watching a podcast episode recently with an expert in AI. Now, this was someone who lives and breathes AI to an extent that was much beyond what I've seen in other professionals in this space, and he was explaining how basically almost every single role that you can imagine is going to be made redundant as a result of AI, or at the very least is going to be completely revolutionized. And I know this can be a difficult concept for people to understand because realistically, we're still in somewhat of the earlier stages of AI, but it has evolved so much in such a short period of time. So if you extrapolate out the growth that it has had in just the last few years, imagine the impact that it is going to have on roles and in the job market. There's going to be things that we can't even fathom now because it's just unimaginable to the way that we currently operate in our jobs. And one of the ways that you can avoid being made completely redundant by robots is through your personal brand, is through your content. Traditionally, as professionals, we may have relied on our expertise, but now what separates us from robots is the personal value that we can bring to the marketplace. For example, content creators don't just bring their expertise to the role, they bring their personality, they bring their personal relationships, and they bring their influence. And as I mentioned earlier, this is going to increase the leverage that you have in the marketplace as well. This is going to be what helps to make you irreplaceable. It's the personal value that you have to offer that cannot be replicated by a robot. Reason number 8 is that content gives you a competitive edge in the marketplace. Now, I want you to picture this. There are 2 potential candidates going for the same job, and you are the recruiter. On paper, they have a very similar work history and skill set and qualifications. The only thing that separates them is that one of them creates content outside of their 9 to 5 and has rising industry influence, and the other simply shows their impact within their organization. Now, in this scenario, which one would you hire? Creating content shows a passion for your industry outside of your 9 to 5 and just getting your regular paycheck. It shows that you want to contribute to your industry moving forward. And it also takes a level of discipline to create content consistently, to be able to keep going even when you may not be seeing the results that you would like to be seeing immediately. And I actually think that this is a really good thing because it means that creating content is not easy. And if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Everyone would be creating content the same way that they all have a resume. But creating content requires that extra bit of effort. So if you're willing to be that person who does the thing that other people aren't willing to do, then that's how you give yourself that competitive edge in the marketplace, knowing that it's not easy for everyone else to do the same thing. Reason number 9 is audiences over access. It used to be about who you knew. That's how you could advance in your career. It's now about who knows you. You can go from being a virtual no one to being an online somebody, and you have control of being able to set yourself on that path. So no matter what connections you have, no matter what circumstances you were born into or the environment that you are currently in, content is this way that you can even the playing field in the marketplace, because you can show the value that you have to a wider audience. And by doing that, you can build opportunities for yourself, because employers now are no longer just interested in hiring you. They're interested in accessing the community that you come with. And this is just an evolution of an idea that has been around for a long time. If you came with a really impressive network, for example, of contacts within the industry, this would help you to secure jobs. But now this has evolved to being more than just the contacts that you have in the industry, but also your audience. It's your online network as well. That adds more value to an employer. So whether you are an emerging leader or a CEO, then you have the potential to bring that community along with you through your career progression. Because roles going forward are no longer just about the technical expertise or the management expertise that you bring to a role. It's no longer just about managing your performance, but it's also about creating engagement. I was listening to another podcast episode where someone had mentioned that in the future, every role is going to be a technical role or a technology-driven role. And this isn't such a far-fetched idea now anyway, because so many roles, no matter what industry you are in, are so heavily orientated around technology, and that is only going to continue to progress. But it got me thinking that every role is also now a media role. It's the same concept. The market has evolved so much that the expectation has shifted. No matter what role you're in, there is some level of representing your organization or representing your industry. And the people that realize that media is no longer simply just dedicated to your marketing and communications team are the people that are going to advance the most in their career. And reason number 10 is that the job market just got a whole lot bigger. Since the pandemic, we have completely changed the way that we work. Think about your own circle of friends or family or previous colleagues that you have as well. I'm going to guess that at least half of them, or the majority, are working from home in some way, either in a hybrid situation, or some of them might have entirely work from home jobs that aren't even with an organization that is based in, say, the city or the state that they live in. And when you think about this, this means that the competitiveness for the roles that you are now applying for are no longer just about the area that you live in. You're no longer just competing with the people in your local city or state. You are competing with potentially the entire country. And as the normalization of work from home just continues to increase, this might mean that even roles that initially people didn't even want to have be a work from home role, employers didn't want to have be a work from home role, might actually be offered to ideal candidates no matter where they are located, provided that they can do the job. Which means that again, the job market is becoming more and more competitive. And if you are creating content, you are giving yourself that competitive edge in the marketplace, but you're also giving yourself a chance to be noticed on a bigger stage. So instead of just relying on the networks that you have in your local area, but you might also find that your opportunities could come knocking from across the country. I know that for the majority of clients that I work with, this comes outside of my local city and my local local state. And if I didn't have that broader mind frame of what I had to offer the marketplace in mind, then I would have been playing that small. And my content, I know from the conversations that I have had with clients, has been a big contributing factor as to how they were able to discover me in the first place, or it was what convinced them to work with me. It was that portfolio of proof. The professionals that are rising the fastest today aren't just doing great work behind the scenes, they're shaping the conversations in public. Thanks so much. For more on personal branding, subscribe for more like this, and I'll see you in the next episode.